Hey guys, we're the Substitutes. I'm Gora, that's Omar, and today we are talking about Newcastle United. The Sheikhs have invaded, and oh god, are they shaking shit up. They've actually cracked into the top four, and I want to find out from Omar while I was on leave, what the fuck happened, dude?
Well, look, I think what happened was that after the Queen died, there was a break from football. And that gave Eddie Howe some time to actually work with his squad and implement some tactics. So if you take it back to the start of the season, they had some wins, they had some draws. Their first loss of the season was against Liverpool. And that was quite a late loss as well. Following that, draw with Crystal Palace, draw with Bournemouth. And then there was this little break. And since then, Newcastle have been excellent, winning comprehensively at Fulham, thrashing Brentford actually, and we know how good Brentford are. And then a really, really credible draw at Man United, a bit lucky, but still credible. They played well. Beat Everton, sorry, and then finally dominated Tottenham, and they've broken into the top four. I've been very impressed with Newcastle. They have the best defense in the league. 10 goals conceded, and they're not shabby going forward as well. 20 goals scored. This is very, very impressive. What they've done in the summer is that they've not gone all Manchester City, which is try and sign the best players from the rival clubs and be a nuisance. No, they have gone, we want to take this slow. We want to buy the right players so that we break into Europe and then grow organically. But I think Eddie Howe is exceeding expectations so far.
Yeah, I've been infinitely surprised and pleasantly surprised by how good Eddie Howe's been. And to your point about that break because the Queen passed away, they've started pressing from the front.
Yeah.
They started counter pressing. And I've seen a lot of dumping the ball just so that they can initiate a press and win it back high up the pitch and then start to attack from there. I think the likes of Almiron, who like probably the most scorned player by Newcastle fans in like the last 2 years, has started to score some belters, and you started to play some really important, important halves and important like innings for them. Sorry, innings. But you started to play some really important roles for them.
World Cup.
Yeah. And then, they've got Callum Wilson in the middle, who is an upgrade on Wood by miles. They've got Alexander Isak, who even against Liverpool was a constant threat and is a fantastic striker if you just look at the raw ability that he gives you. So going forward, they now have more than they've ever had before in the last 5 years. And I think
if you look at great keeper as well, by the way.
They've got a great keeper in Nick Pope. They've got a great back four in Trippier, in Byrne, and in Botman. And like they've spent at the right places and on the right personalities. If you look at Gumaraj in the middle of the park, that guy has changed the way they look at midfield play this season. The way he passes the ball around, the way he tackles for the ball, the way he redistributes, the way he carries the ball. It's really changed the dynamic of that team. And what I've been really impressed by is that Eddie Howe's managed to take players like Joe Linton and repurpose them as like a ball-winning midfielder or a pressing demon. And he's really improved everyone in that squad. And I think the next piece that you're probably going to see is someone like Alan Saint-Maximin being a better defender, being a better presser, being a better tracking back winger. And I think that's really been the key, is that Eddie Howe has taken whatever Steve Bruce had at that club, torn it apart, and in 9 months, he's gotten them into the top four. It's unbelievable that he's managed to do that in 9 months.
Well, we knew how good Eddie Howe was. His record at Bournemouth, his record at Burnley. Well, I mean, he was at Burnley for a pretty short time, but his record at Bournemouth, let's just say that, right? Like he was always touted as an up-and-coming manager, a guy who really reads the game very well.
Yeah.
And Newcastle was a very considered decision for him because they had just been taken over, and it was a very astute signing. They identified a really good young manager, and they're like, this is someone who is tactically very flexible, and he can really improve players. And it's such a contrast from Steve Bruce, who's
Mm,
very old school. And look, he's a relegation specialist, really. And I mean, look, the appointment was very smart. And not only that, they've also given him a lot of flexibility to bring in his players who he wants to bring in and who he thinks he can mold. And you're right about him and St. Maximin. I think once he gets a hold of him and can actually improve him, I mean, look, I don't see where the ceiling is for Newcastle. I mean, you can talk about money all you want. City have had all the money in the world. At one point, Chelsea have had all the money in the world. After the mid 90s, in 97, United had all the money in the world. So it's just the name of the game, and you have to improve. And they've made a great signing in Eddie Howe. It's probably their best signing, and I like the way that they're giving him time. All power to Newcastle. They've been under so much, I mean, so much despair.
hmm.
Was it Mike Ashley? His name was? I can't remember his
Yeah,
name.
Mike Ashley.
Yeah, like so. All power to them. The Saudi ownership have actually been very, very smart, and all credit to them.
Yeah, and I think, in contrast to the way City did things, they've done it in a more, I wouldn't say sustainable, but I would say in a more specialized, selective manner, going after the biggest gaps in the squad for Guimaraes. At right back, they got Trippier. They needed a defender, they got Dan Burn. So they've spent well, and they've spent on potential. They've not bought old superstars. They've just tried to get people that are about to hit their prime and can improve with the squad, and they can build that squad around these pieces. So, yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Like, more power to Newcastle. I'm really happy for their fans. Um, where the money comes from, we can't really point fingers. So, let's just forget that. But let us know what you think. What have been the keys to Newcastle's success? Do you think they can finish in the top four? I personally think that they'll fall just slightly short. I think the squad depth is going to be very key after the World Cup. And I think maybe that's where they can get found out if they don't buy well in January, which I think they probably will get a player or two, but that's always hit and miss. But yeah, let us know what you think. Will Newcastle finish in the top four? And are we seeing a new perennial title challenger? Leave your comments, give us a like. We love you, and we'll see you soon. To the substitutes.